It's exciting to have every one of us around. And just like the VC has said, our apology for starting behind schedule, but we dive right into it. And it's exciting. I'm so excited to also inform every one of us that we have our speakers already in the room. And just like we've been told, our first speaker tonight, it's no other person but Mod Nazrin Wahab, and he is going to be taking us on the topic, the power of reframing, how great leaders adapt and pivot. But before he actually takes over the podium, I would like to also tell us a little about Nazrin. Nazrin Wahab is actually a learning and performance specialist who is dedicated to individuals to enhance their thinking, performance, communication, and leadership skills. Nazrin has over 20 years of experience. He specializes in professional work skills, focusing on workplace performance improvement. He has facilitated over 16,000 hours of workshops for middle and senior management, working with leading organizations such as Axiata, Petronius, Enkel, BHP, Billiton, Barclays Bank, and many others. He has trained a lot of executives worldwide, helping them to hone their expertise in interpersonal and intercultural communication. Is certified by Ascension, Trancom, Franklin Covey, and the American Board of Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Nazrin also serves as a lecturer in intercultural communication, crisis communication in the University of Gloucestershire, and also Silite Malay culture, Motak. So I just want every one of us to please join me tonight as we welcome Nazrin Wahab, and as he takes us on the power of reframing, how great leaders adapt and pivot. And immediately after Nasrin, we'll also welcome Dr. Awesome Joshua, who is also in the house with us. But before then, please let me give the room over to Nasrin. Nasrin, thank you very much. Nice to have you around.
Thank you very much, Brother Rufus. Welcome everybody to the session. This is my first time attending with the TLC, so I'm a little nervous. I'm really excited. I don't know if I'm able to, give you what you need, but I'm going to do my best. So, welcome to everyone to the session. My name is Nazrin, and I am from Malaysia, a small little country in Southeast Asia. If you ever come by, just tell me when you do. Maybe we can meet up. Tonight's topic is the power of reframing, and I'm given about 20 to 30 minutes to cram in as much as I can into this because I have a lot to say. I really have a lot to say, especially when we talk about things that happen to us in our life, in our business life, in our professional life. We recently had a global problem, which was COVID-19. It was probably one of the most recent times in history where something happened to everyone at the same time. And it was interesting to see how people pulled together. Some people remember those days as being good and bad. Some people remember those days as being very, very tiring for them. But a lot of people I know found that that was a time when they thought differently because a lot of the social norms, a lot of the cultural norms had to be suspended. So people started thinking about how can I do things differently? And I dare say that if we held on to that, right, if we held on to that attitude, that mindset, then it can take us anywhere. So tonight we'll talk about the power of reframing, how great leaders adapt and pivot. And I'd like to sort of pivot and adapt this topic. I want to talk about this as us as individuals, right? I'll be giving you examples of companies, of course, but I want you to think about yourselves, right? How can you whether you are a leader or not, whether you have that title leader or not, how can you adapt and pivot to adversity, to change? So, first off, of course, is that question, what is reframing? Well, I learned the concept of reframing in a methodology called neuro-linguistic programming. And the idea here is that if you are stuck in a particular situation, you are stuck in a particular emotion, then how do you look at it from a different angle? The reality doesn't change, right? If you have a problem, you have a problem. But how can you look at it from a different angle to see if there is a different way to attack the problem? So when we look at the word frame, if you see everything in front of you, but you don't focus, then you're not going to be able to see the most relevant things in your life. But when you put a frame around it, it limits all of that other input and you can see things within context, within perspective. We do this anyway. We frame things around us. When we focus on something, we cut all the other noise, all the other information out. But then, because we fall into a problem and our frame remains on that problem, what happens is we're not able to see anything outside of that. So I'm going to show you a picture and I want you to describe, tell me in the chat, if you have never seen this picture before, I want you to go to the chat, describe what you are seeing very fast. If you have seen this picture, please hang back. Don't do anything, don't type anything, right? Let's give them a chance. Everyone go to the chat. Tell me what is it that you see. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. Tell me what is it that you see. Okay, 20 seconds to go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. All right. Some people say people, a car, a UFO. Looks like a PJ seat. All right. Any more? Three, two, one. Looks like a black aeroplane. Thank you very much. Now, the problem with this is that we are seeing it from one angle, but if we reframe, what if we flip it, right? And then we start to see a little bit more detail, but still not enough. So what do? Let's see if we can expand our frame a little bit more so that we get to see a lot more information. So now what do you see? You see someone who drove into a river or drove into a lake. Now, interesting that the human brain sees reality from its only one perspective. And the worst part is we actually believe what we see. So when we are stuck within one particular frame, we are not able to gather information. And sometimes we are so arrogant, we are so egoistic to believe that the way I am seeing the world is the right way. And as you can see around the world, right, this is happening everywhere. So how do we bridge that? How do we change that in ourselves? Well, we always say this: if you only focus on the problem, you might miss the easy solution. That you are not actually in the kind of problem they see. Some people say, look for the silver lining. There's always a silver lining to every situation. That can be true. So that's also a way of reframing. Tonight, I'm going to share with you some examples from the corporate world, some of my favorite ones, so that we get to see things in context. Okay. First off, how many people remember what happened to these two companies in the last 30 or 40 years? Now, the first company is called Kodak. Okay, younger people, younger than me. I'm 48 this year. So people in their 30s and their 20s barely remember Kodak because once upon a time, Kodak was the number one camera film company in the world. Yeah, not film camera, camera film company in the world. They produce the largest amount of film for cameras. And I know this because I used to be a journalist for 7 years. And my editor insisted that we use Kodak all the time. Sometimes we would use other brands, but with the best results we always get was Kodak. So I was a photojournalist for 7 years, long before the digital camera revolution. Um, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was an amazing brand. But what happened was when the digital camera revolution came, they were not able to pivot fast enough. And when they did, they tried, it was too late because competitors had already taken over the market. Now, here's the rub, right? Here's a sad part. In 1970s, Kodak had already invented the digital camera, but they shelved it. They put that invention aside because they thought, nah, people will not buy it, right? And they also made all sorts of excuses during the new digital camera revolution. They said, no, nobody will want to buy a digital camera. If anybody remembers, I guess if you're young enough, right? If you remember in the early 2000s, 2001, 2002, when digital cameras first came out, they were terrible in quality, like very low resolution, and you had to click, you had to wait 2 to 3 seconds before you actually captured the picture. So Kodak was very arrogant to say, nah, nobody will want this, right? And as Rita says, yeah, they lost out to the inability to reinvent. But here's the thing, like I said, they already had a digital camera. They created one in 1970s, but they shelved it because they thought, nope, we can make more money this way. So Kodak is exited the business to consumer market. They now do B2B, business to business only, but they've lost out almost all of their market share. Not and nobody remembers this brand as having been a pivotal or important in our imaging industry. Then we have the second one, which is Nokia. Nokia recently has made a comeback, but not the original Nokia. It's just a licensed brand, right? But once upon a time, Nokia was the number one mobile phone company in the world. They were uncontested. You had your Alcatel, sure, your Sony Ericssons, yeah, but oh wow, Nokia was the thing. And throughout my university years, I always had a Nokia. And I remember once I was charging my phone next to the windowsill at my college, and we live on the fourth floor, right? So fourth floor means there's a ground floor and there's 4 floors above. So it's total 5 floors. In Malaysia, we have ground one, two, three, four. It fell. Somebody knocked it over or something. I think a bird passed by. It just fell out the window onto the ground floor, and I thought, oh, my dad's gonna kill me, and I ran down, and it split into two pieces. It split into the phone and the battery. That's it. Put it back together. Fantastic. Still alive. So Nokia was number one, and they believed they would remain number one for the longest time. Then in 2007, the iPhone came out, and the smartphone revolution appeared. And um, Nokia was also slow to react or slow to respond. And when they did respond, they made the mistake of instead of going with Android under Google, which was a very fairly new company, they went to Microsoft for their OS, for their operating system, and that just made things a lot worse. So at the one of the last few AGMs, the CEO made a speech and he cried. He cried. He says, "We did nothing wrong, but the problem is they also did nothing right." So pivoting, pivoting is the ability to change fast. But then how do we do that? So I want to look for some structure for tonight. And I recognize that there is a book called Judo Strategy. I recommend that you read this book. This is by Professor Dr. David Yoffie. And he came to Malaysia many, many years ago and I went to his symposium where he presented the book. And the reason I went is because I am an avid martial artist. I love martial arts. So when I went, I wanted to see what is this? What is judo got to do with business? And sadly, his opening speech was he says, "I have never studied judo in my life. All right, so do not ask me about the martial art. I call this book Judo Strategy because I see that there is the opportunity to use judo philosophy in business. And you can see in the crowd, there were a few of us who were disappointed because we thought it was going to be a talk on martial arts. However, that was an interesting talk nonetheless because he outlined and gave us examples of how companies are able to pivot, how companies are able to use the weight and size of other companies against them, and he also showed that there were things that you could do even if you were very, very small. It doesn't matter. So there are many things that this book talks about. I selected for tonight three principles. The first principle is the ability to move rapidly to uncontested ground to avoid head-to-head conflict. And what this really means is you move into a blue ocean. some place that nobody, your competitors have not moved into, and you move fast. You don't move slowly, and then they realize, hey, you're going in that direction. Let's go there as well. Now you move fast to be able to conquer that particular market. Principle number two is be flexible and give way when attacked directly by superior force. So anybody who studied martial arts, you know that if you have a big opponent coming in, you do not face the opponent down. You're gonna get crushed, right? It's like a watermelon and a I don't know a grape. Right? Either way, if the watermelon rolls the grape, or the grape rolls the watermelon, the grape's gonna get squashed anyway. So be flexible and give way when attacked directly by a superior force, a heavier force, a bigger force. Principle number three, exploit leverage that uses the weight and strategy of opponents against them. So principle two says you step aside. Right? Principle three says not only do you step aside, but you use their own weight against them to defeat them in the market. All right. So if you are ready to hear what I'm going to talk about, please give me a ready in the chat. I want to see how many people are out there ready to go. If you're ready to hear, give me a ready in the chat. I will be asking questions, so please type into the answers. Thank you very much. We got two readies, three readies. Oh, we got a lot more people now. We got 23 in the crowd. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Because you have shown commitment to me, I will commit to you as well. So let's talk about my favorite brand, one of my favorite brands, Lego. And I need to check because this is a global brand, right? How many people here are Lego fans? If you are, type in me, ME for me. How many people here are Lego fans? Oh, wow. We have no Lego fans here. That's interesting. All right. Oh, Rosemary, we got one right there. A Lego fan. Good, good. Keep going. Anybody else? Okay. No worries. So Lego used to be quite popular amongst kids in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, right? But then other toy companies dominated the market. And if you remember Barbie dolls, Transformers, yes, typically in the Western market, but they moved also into Malaysia. They moved into Japan. So they lost ground to Mattel and Hasbro because the kids, kids' imagination, right, get captured by cartoons. So you have Transformers cartoons, you have GI Joe, you have Barbie, you have all of that stuff, and Mattel and Hasbro were killing it, and Lego was dying out because the leadership were getting old. Literally, they were aging out, and they had no idea what else to do because the market is changing rapidly. We don't know what to do. People are not buying our stuff anymore. So they appointed a new CEO, and I realized later that the way they tell a story is that, oh, we had an accountant who was very young, and we decided to promote him as CEO, take over the company. So it sounded like some random accountant in a back room somewhere. Turns out he was an ex-McKinsey's consultant. So he was a McKinsey's consultant who already had the training, who already had the understanding of how to shift and change gears, right? So what they did was they pivoted away from traditional toys like cars and cities and spaceships. I love those in particular, but what they did was they started licensing. So yes, they did a lot of trial and error. They failed there, but they also tried something called licensing. And they said, hang on a sec, there are fans from a lot of other genres. So if you are a Star Wars fan, or you are a Lord of the Rings fan, or you are a Harry Potter fan, or Jurassic Park fan, or a Indiana Jones fan, there are already ready fan bases there. If you're a superhero fan, right? You're a Marvel fan, you're a DC fan, you're a Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, whatever fan. There are ready fans out there. Lego thought, hang on a sec, can we steal our fans from these domains? So when they started licensing and they started coming out with superhero Lego, Lord of the Rings Lego, Harry Potter Lego, Jurassic Park Lego, they discovered an untapped market. And that market is being able to convert fans from other domains. So what happened? They created a new market called AFOL. They discovered that, hang on, most of these fans are adults. They're not kids. So why are we still selling to kids? We can sell these toys as not as toys, but creativity and imagination too. So when they created the AFOL, which stands for Adult Fan of Lego, um, I don't even know whether they created it or the fans themselves called them AFOLs. Um, these people have money. They are engineers and architects and whatever you have. They just have that money. So they started buying all of these. And okay, here's a definition of an AFOL. Yeah, I don't fit the definition because an AFOL is someone who will buy a Lego set 4 times. They'll buy 4 copies, one to build, one to keep, two to sell. And in many cases, the two that they sell make up for these two as well. Because Lego bricks, Lego toys do not fall in price. They are in investment. You can actually buy them, keep them as an investment because they never fall in price, especially when they stop producing those sets, then the price goes up. I kid you not. It's like the art world where art goes up, right? Prices go up. Lego is the only toy that goes up in price steadily when they stop making them. So this is an amazing example that I love. They moved in, they conquered, and to this day, no other brick toys, yeah, is able to license as much as Lego has. Yeah, they tried Transformers, Creo has tried Transformers and stuff like that, but Lego is the only one that holds all of the keys. Principle number two, we're gonna talk about another film company. So next to Kodak, Fujifilm was Japan's biggest filmmaker for cameras. And what they discovered was, oh my God, they also missed the digital camera revolution. They were also not fast enough. So they discovered that let's admit to ourselves this is not going to be good, right? We're not going to be able to compete like this anymore. They didn't give up though. They didn't give up. They had a meeting, and this is a very fantastic business case study. Go and search for it. Okay, go search for the Fujifilm business case study. They had a meeting, and they decided to pivot because all of the chemicals that they own to make film, all of the processes that they have in their manufacturing, all of the scientists that they salary, all of the IP that they own, and all of the machinery are the same machinery, scientists, processes, chemicals that you need to make cosmetics. So instead of doing something adjacent like Lego did, Lego is still Lego, it's still brick toys. They just move into a different market. What Fujifilm did was to say, hang on, let's go back to fundamentals. What do we have? What can we do with it? Right? And instead of continuing to make film, they moved into cosmetics. It's such a far break that people in the industry, analysts are still mind boggled. They moved into cosmetics. Yeah. This is like Tesla moving into restaurants. So if you go to the Asterlift website now, right, you'll see that they've removed the name Fujifilm. It's still there, yeah, but Fujifilm does not want to be. They don't need that name anymore. So Fujifilms, if I remember right, their tagline was, "We are experts at preserving your beauty on film, and now we are experts at preserving your beauty in real life." And one way they manage to convince buyers is the same chemical that they use in film that they use in to make cosmetics is collagen. So they are experts at collagen. All right, let's take a look at principle number three, which is exploit, leverage, and wait. So you have a competitor that is bigger than you. You have a competitor that is ridiculously far more, far more experienced, far more mature. Now, in the United States, there are these two brands. Let me check if you have these brands in your areas as well. Are you familiar with diapers and Pampers? If you are familiar with Pampers only, type in P. If diapers only, type in D. If both diapers and Pampers, then you put P and D. Okay, so Rufus knows Pampers, does not know diapers. I guess they have not come to your area. Yeah, Pampers took over the world. When you say Pampers in Malaysia, it means all. all diaper brands, even though Paul PNP. Okay, so no D at all, right? Yeah, that's how small diapers is. Nobody knows them. And you can probably tell, right? They call themselves diapers because Pampers was already out there. That's how you know that they are a minor player. But how did diapers grow? In Malaysia, I we don't use Pampers anymore. At least I don't. I have 5 kids, and we are diapers fans. Yeah, the family is diapers fans. Sure, we'll buy one other brand once in a while. But what happened there, they realized that they could not counter Pampers marketing and promotions, right? Um, I'll give you one example that David Yoffie gave in his book Judo Strategy. Pampers came up with vouchers, with coupons for discounts on their products. So Dreypers thought maybe we can do the same. But then somebody came up with the idea, hang on, why do we need to spend so much money printing these coupons to compete with Pampers? Why don't we just use what they have already done? So instead of printing out vouchers and stuff like that, they just gave a sign to shopkeepers and retailers to put up in their shop. Drivers, we also accept Pampers vouchers. Now, tell me in the chat, what do you think of that? In case you missed it, let me tell you again. Instead of printing their own vouchers, they just gave every shopkeeper, every retailer a sign that says, "Drivers, we also accept Pampers vouchers here," which means that they could also give the same discount. So go to the chat, tell me what you think. Yes, leveraging, but how? How the? Can you imagine? Pampers paid so much money for those vouchers to print those vouchers, and then Dreyper just flies in for free. Yeah, thank you, Rufus. Thank you, Mufid. How about everyone else? What do you think of that? Instead of putting in your effort, you use the effort of somebody else. I'll give you one example. There's a quick one before we end. It should be illegal, of course. I'm pretty sure that maybe Pampers managed to get that struck down. But the thought the thought of doing it, that's amazing. I'll tell you one joke that I saw. I've read about that. There was this man who was incarcerated in prison because he robbed a bank, but he hid the money. So authorities never found the money that he stole. His father sent him a letter to say, "My son, I am old, and every year you would help me to dig up the the garden so that we can plant our new fresh vegetables. But this year, because you are in prison, um, I am not able to do this without you." So his son writes a letter. He says, "Dear father, please do not dig up the garden because that is where I stashed the money I stole." And guess what? The next day, FBI, CIA, and local authorities would come and dig up the garden just to find the stash, only to discover the money was not there. Then his son sends another letter and says, "Well, father, that's all I can do. I hope you can plant your garden." So using the width and the speed and the size of someone else in order to be able to move yours. So here's my question to you. How will you pivot in the face of adversity? Will you freeze or will you actually do something quick? Because if you don't, then what happens is you get left behind. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to me. And I hope I've given you some value tonight. I'm going to hand the session back to either Rufus or Dr. Godwin. And I guess we have a Q&A coming up. So thank you very much. Do ask me any questions that you have.
Wow, awesome. That was mind blowing. I'm very interesting. I think I have a lot of comments, but I'm going to save them. We're just going to go straight to the Q&A and just take questions if there are any. So if you would like to unmute yourself and ask your questions, please go ahead. Or if you'd rather just post your question in the chat room, then please go ahead and do that. Okay, that's also another good way to achieve that. Let me see if there are any questions. So first, if you can help me, I'd appreciate it. But that was the first um, presentation about how leaders can pivot, right? And I mean, I've never heard the judo strategy so x-rayed and simplified, and made, easy to understand, and that's how you know a learning expert, and that's how you know someone who knows their subject. Someone said if you cannot explain something in a few sentences, then you actually don't know it. So thank you so much for that insightful session. Yes, questions? If you have questions, you can go straight away into
Okay, so VC, thank you so much. Dr. Nazil, Wahab, thank you so much. Rufus, thank you for anchoring from the beginning. We want to appreciate you. And from what you have said, I want to reframe some of those highlights from your facilitation this evening. We want to appreciate you. So one of them, the power of moving rapidly to the blues. Using this principle, you have been able to use the Lego as an example, and that is warning against overthinking and paralysis analysis, where
Yes.
leaders fail to project themselves. Instead of moving and thinking, you've arrived at a conclusion of any strategic matter. But for most leaders, we find it that when we get into a crossroad, what normally happens is we overthink, we overanalyze, and then fail to take decisions that we're supposed to take. But using this Lego story, you've been able to show us that aside analyzing and criticizing on looking at situation, even if we conduct a SWOT analysis or any business model, we should be bold enough to go with our decision. Rufus, what do you say about this particular insight right now before I move to principle number 2 and using the context of what um, Dr. Mohit Nazel has said? Is there any insight right now from what he has said from that principle? Maybe I missed out so that any of our participants can be able to say that.
All right, thank you, Madam Rita. I believe you're very, very spot on. The only thing that even came to mind why Nazrin was talking, actually, I remember that the first mover advantage. That was the first thing that actually came to mind. So I believe you're very spot on. Please, we can proceed.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah. So as the TLC, as we said at this leadership circle, it is not just to get to leadership position, the ability to be able to pivot when issues happen. And the vivid example of the COVID period where the world was faced with the same problem at the same time present an opportunity for people and for organizations to adapt to growth. And that is what we have with the video conferencing media or channels that have started. And for now, even in the workplace, we can see the power of adapting and pivoting to great things. Zoom didn't just start in exactly 2000 when COVID-19 started. It started much more than that. So as leaders, I would challenge each and every one of us to take that lesson, principle number 1, moving rapidly to the blues. On principle number 2, you have also highlighted and encouraged leaders to be flexible. Being flexible and give way. That means you are suggesting that leaders should leverage on their existing strengths. For whatever strength that you have, you should not also stay rooted in one place, but be ready to either pivot to great things. And I remember even in Nigeria during the COVID period, what we had was some great organization, especially when you use the Fiji theme. 7-Up Bottling Company is one of the beverage, non-alcoholic beverage in Nigeria. And during that COVID period, because they had water and they had chlorine, which was used to sanitize water, what they were able to do was to quickly move into the sanitizer. They started producing sanitizer. So this has shown us that as leaders, no matter what it is, no matter what dimension we face, and that's why leaders during crisis period, how do we manage ourselves? How do we manage the people? And how do we manage the organization? And then on principle number 3, you have told us to exploit leverage on the weight of our competitors. You have advised us to also emphasize the importance of finding ways to exploit what existing resources, not only that we have, but also any of our competitors. So I want to thank you very much, and we'll take any question from now from what Nazil has said. He has said we should call him Nazil. So Nazil, we will take 2 questions so that we don't lose track of our time. Are there any questions? Anyone from us to take this? Thank you.
And just a quick comment, just to add another interesting story to the power, just to underscore the power of framing. Remember the story about the whole research that went into trying to produce a pen that defies gravity in order to write in space, right? And how that after several efforts and all that, somebody came up with the idea of hey, why don't we just go with a pencil? And that was the end of that problem. And really and truly, we leaders, because we lead the vision, we project the vision of the organization, because we champion change, because we always champion transformation, because we are the ones to determine the next direction of the organization, the next place revenue is supposed to come from, the next opportunity, we really must learn to break away from our current frame and lead the way, and actually even create a culture and environment where people can break away from the status quo, their current mindset, so that they can become creative and do things that will help us really unlock untapped opportunities, and open new doors, to our organization. Thank you so much for this. I mean, that's what came to mind. Yes, still looking out for questions. Over to you, Madam Rita. By the way, Madam Rita is the Deputy Program Director for TLC. So apparently, I think I was meddling with their session, and that's because Nazrin called me into the session. So please withdraw, and take it up from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, VC. We appreciate you. So we are waiting for questions. We have about 5 more minutes to wrap up the session. And then I want to ask Nazir, when you're talking about leadership, what do you think is the major limiting factor for leaders failing to pivot in situations where they have crisis or where they have uncertainties? We know in the world right now, vulgar is the new term when we're talking about the volatility, when we're talking about the uncertainty, we're talking about what would you call it now? The complexity and then the ambiguity. Why do you think leaders fail to pivot? Can we just have one from you while we wait for any of our participants to ask their questions? You can also send your questions into the chat room if you don't want to say anything. Over to you, Nazir. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So aside from learning and development, I also teach crisis communications because I was a journalist. I work in public relations. I worked in marketing for a while. And currently I'm teaching a class for the University of Gloucestershire, which you Rufus find very difficult to pronounce. I also find it difficult to pronounce because it's in the UK. But Jess, your question actually was covered in the last class, I thought, and we talked about what we call information processing problems. So I have an answer for that, thankfully. Leaders, when during a crisis especially, they don't get the right data, they don't get the right information, because everything is VUCA right there, yeah? So there are 5 reasons. The first one is what we call serial reproduction errors. I tell you, you tell someone else, you tell someone else, you tell someone else, and then by the time it gets to the leader, the information is morphed, is distorted, right? You don't get the exact information because, and some people, this is we don't use this term anymore because it's ethnically insensitive. but they used to call it Chinese whispered, right? So when one person passes information to another, to another, to another, they don't get the information correct. And I saw some research recently. I can recall what it's called, but it says that people at the bottom of the organization see 100% of the problems. People at the top see only 4%. By the time they get there, they lost 96% of context, not content. They might still have the information, but they lost the context of it, so they don't understand it. The second one is what we call the mum effect, where people keep quiet, they withhold negative information because they don't want to get fired or because they think they might be blamed. So leadership do not have enough information. And you want to add on to the mum effect, you have yes men or yes women next to you telling you as a leader that you're doing a good job, right? That's going to mess things up as well. The third one is what we call message overload. So during a crisis, you get so much information, as we saw in COVID-19. We got so much information that we did not know which one to trust. We didn't know where to, and my God, I don't know if it happens in Nigeria and in the Middle East, in Africa, but in Asia, there were so many traditional medicines popping up in WhatsApp groups. Oh, you need to gather this rainwater and boil it, and then, oh my God, we had so many of those, and people died because of that, because they thought they could heal it with traditional medicines. Now, I have nothing against traditional medicine. I'm a practitioner myself, but I know for a fact that if you've never seen this disease before, you're not prepared for it. The next one is what we call information acquisition bias, where leadership gets all of the information, but because their frame only sees what they're normally seeing, they cut out everything else. So if they don't like the information, they'll cut it out. They don't listen to it. And the last one, I think you talked about it, group decision making errors. It could be group think, yeah, or it could just be bad decision making throughout all of it. So, Rita, I hope that answers the question. And I've
Thank
answered
you
it
so
not from
much.
my perspective, but actually from research. So this is from
Okay.
Timothy Coombs, an expert in crisis communication.
Thank you so much, Naze. This was quite explicit, and I hope most of our participants also got it. Thank you so much. So we'll take this as a wrap. Thank you. We'll look forward to another opportunity to invite you in, and then maybe probably you're going to have more time to be able to explain another topical topic to us. Thank you so much. So over
I
to
look
you,
forward to it.
Rufus, as you bring in the next speaker. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Madam Rita. And then I want to say once again, thanks to Nazrin for that wonderful session. We've truly been imparted. And then moving on now, I also have the privilege of inviting our next speaker, Dr. Joshua Awesome. Dr. Joshua Awesome is a distinguished PhD scholar, an executive coach, and a passionate advocate for mental health. It has a very strong focus on learning and development. You can say we're truly blessed with powerful speakers tonight. He empowers individuals and organizations to actually achieve their goals through evidence-based approaches and practical strategies. He's an award-winning researcher. Dr. Awesome has been recognized for his contributions to the field of psychology, and he's the author of 3 best-selling books. His expertise is in translating complex psychological concepts into clear, engaging, and actionable insights, and that has made him a sought-after thought leader in the industry. Dr. Joshua has over 25 years of experience. He has facilitated and coached more than 200,000 individuals and professionals in transformative L&D sessions. He has collaborated with renowned global brands such as Discovery, MTN, South Africa Airways, GlaxoSmithKline, GSK, that's Osfam too, Ericsson, General Electric, just to mention a few. Our doctor is actually guided by Benjamin Franklin's timeless wisdom. Tell me, and I forget. Teach me, and I may remember. Involve me, and I learn. So I just want every one of us to please put our hearts together as we invite Dr. Joshua Awesome and as he speaks to us on learning leadership myth and the open mindset. Doctor, thank you. We're privileged to have you around tonight. Yeah, hand over to you. Thank you.
Uh, Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and a privilege to be here. I'm chiming in from South Africa. It's actually pretty late. It's 21, almost going to 22 hours on this side. I would try not to fall asleep during this presentation. And I say that because of the video that I'm about to show. And my entire presentation is actually going to be centered around this video I'm about to share. And so I would encourage everyone to kindly just watch carefully, because this is the one video that I would show, but more importantly, it's also going to be the only content that I would use to drive home my topic. I would appreciate if you can see my screen. You can kindly just show by a thumbs up, or type a yes in the chat box. Yes, thank you, Nazreen. I guess that gives me the opportunity to segue to Nazreen, and thank you for your presentation. Indeed insightful. Thank you, Rufus, for your thumbs up. So with two people confirming they can see my screen, I hope you are seeing a black screen. Hopefully if you see a black screen, then you can see my screen. So I'm going to play this short video. I might play it twice for the purpose of emphasis, because I'm going to center my entire presentation around it. So I'd like to start, and I encourage you to watch from start to finish. Thank you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that is where I'm going to stop my screen sharing. We're now going to engage. So we're focusing on breaking free from leadership myths by exploring how curiosity and self-awareness can transform our approach to change. Can I invite everyone? When you think about the short film we just watched, what's the one leadership myth that comes to your mind? And I'd like you to type it in the chat box. I like the fact that Natsrin is giving us his whole, his whole perspective at once. It says you can kill problems by treating the symptoms only. Thank you, Natsrin, for that. Chidima says it's lonely at the top. Okay, Chidima, you also says you need to be proactive. IA, I'm not sure, what that full name is, but IA says focus on the root cause. Sheyi just asked the question, why kill a fly with a sword? I guess the answers will come to us as we journey together. All right. I think at this point, I'm just going to take you on a journey why I started with, that short film. The reality is that short film actually was a very interesting short film that I remember watching during my cognitive behavioral therapy class. And I didn't understand why, my professor played it. But as I've journeyed through my career now, 25 years afterwards, there's one thing that I've come to realize, and which is what I'm going to center everything around. Okay, thank you, Joseph. I see Joseph has brought his own perspective. It takes a lot to be a leader. Leaders, tools are many. Okay, thank you, Joseph. Olabi says, making mountain out of a molehill. Right. Okay. Well, thank you to everyone who shared some, perspective. If there's anything that I would like us to keep in mind as we segue into the body of this time together, is that true leadership begins with self-mastery and not constant force or pretense of perfection. True leadership begins with self-mastery, not with constant force or pretense of perfection. So let's take a moment to dive a bit deeper. What are some common myths that comes to your mind? I mean, you possibly know a lot. Share one, and please make sure it's just one sentence, one line. Common myths. Okay, and you don't have to type it in the chat box. Who would like to go? You can please lift up your hand. I will gladly just call, and invite you, or you can just, please lift up your hand if you would like to share. All right, Paul, the mic is on you now. Go for it, Paul.
Leaders are born. Leaders are born.
Leaders are born.
Yeah, that's one myth.
All right. Is that the end of your sentence?
Yeah,
Well, I thought you left out not made.
yeah, you could add that. Yeah, leaders
Leaders are
born
born.
and they're not made. Yeah.
Since we're in a collaboration here, let me help you complete it. Thank you so much, Paul, for sharing. Who's gonna go next? You can lower your hand now, Paul. Thank you. All right, who's gonna go next? We'll take one more. All right, somebody just typed in the chat box. Leadership is not by seniority. Okay, right. Kicha Emilia said leadership is by seniority. Okay, that sounds like a Nigerian way of saying, what you're trying to say. I think I would rephrase that. I would, take what Emilia is trying to say, or maybe add one more. Leaders must always have the right answer. Many times some leaders think, oh yeah, I'm the leader. I always must be correct. Okay, thank you, Sheyi. Leadership is hard work. Joseph, anybody can be a leader. Leaders are always right. Yes, leaders must always be right. Well, thank you, everybody. Titi, thank you. Olabi, leadership by example. Titi Ashiru, thank you. Leaders know it all. Chidima, Amaka, thank you. Sheyi, Joseph, thank you. Duke, leaders have all the answers. Yes, thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who chimed in. And the reason why, okay, somebody just chimed in again, and this is from Mufid. Great leaders don't need to know everything. They surround themselves with knowledgeable people and ask the right questions. So we were asking for a one-liner, and we were asking you to just share some myths. And I'm really grateful that everybody, at one point or the other, has shared something. Now let's go back to the fly story. And I'm going to play it one more time. You remember I said I was going to play it at least twice. This time, I want you to look at it and watch it as someone who is taking notes. Okay? Watch it intently as someone who is taking notes. All right? And then we will then link it to some of the points that we have highlighted, and then we begin to close. So I'm going to play it one more time, and I encourage you. You will see it differently now, and I promise you, you will see it differently. Can you see my screen? Please give me a thumbs up if you can. All right. Can you see my screen? Please give me a thumbs up if you can. Thank you. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for the feedback, Rufus. Okay, let's move now. I'm going to play it one more time, and I'd like you to make some notes as you're watching. Thank you. All right. So we're now going to take a final deep dive. And you know, right. Nazreen, I just saw your message and I'd like to acknowledge it. Thank you. And have a restful one. He says it's 3 a.m. in Malaysia, that he would like to leave. Let's just all say our goodbyes to Nazreen if you can. Have a good one. So just to continue, let's take a moment now. I'd like to ask specific questions around an open mindset and curiosity. My first question, and I'd like everyone to contribute at this point now. Okay, so where did the fly first perch? Anybody? Dr. OK says his cheek. Somebody said his face. Somebody said the floor. Okay, right. We got 3 answers already. Anybody else wants to try? Somebody said the wood behind him. Somebody said on the floor or the table. All right. Thank you, Rufus. Thank you, Mufid. Thank you, Apostle Paul. Oh, is it Apostle Paul from the Bible? Oh, okay. All right. I didn't know that he showed up on the planet. Again, to participate in this witty moment. Rufus, you're laughing. No, but it's true. I mean, Apostle Paul, we never know, eh? Maybe you've come up in a form to help us realize that wisdom is necessary in this time, eh? All right. So thank you to everyone who made a comment. Now, let me help you realize. It first perched on a table. And thank you to the person who said the table behind him. Actually, the table was before him, ahead of him. Now, curiosity, open mind. It's important that we notice when you have an open mind, your attention to attention is very important. All right. Let me ask my second question. Okay. The fly perched on the table ahead of him. The second place where the fly perched was where? All right, guys, come on. Apostle Paul, his face. Yeah, well, you said his face. Well, Ima said on his cheek. Okay, his cheek. Duke said his cheek. You know, whoever gets this one right, you actually were actually going to get an e-copy of the book I co-authored with Brian Tracy titled The Secret to Winning Big. That book became a New York Times bestseller in 1 month. Somebody said his face, between his eyes and his nose. Well, I would close it now so we don't take too much time, so we begin to wrap up. Well, thank you all for all of you who, made the comment. Joseph, you tried. Joseph said the left side of his face. Ladies and gentlemen, it was the right side of his face. Again, curiosity. I gave you an idea and I said, watch closely. Okay. Now, why am I giving us these examples, distinguished ladies and gentlemen? Because of the definition of an open mind. Okay. An open mind is one that is willing to learn from every experience. Okay. Even disruptions. Including disruptions. Yes. Remember, he's a swordsman. In other words, he already has the skill to be able to take down anything. He had a sword beside him. And that position was a position of meditation. And in some parlance, that's a position of prayer. And he was in a place that was quiet, no distraction, because distractions can become attractions. Now, let's move further. Curiosity really can fuel innovation and drive behavioral change. The fact that the fly perched on the right side of his face, maybe it was trying to get him to begin to think right and maybe act right. Because when he first with the right face, he didn't want to mess up his meditation mode. And then it flew to the left side. Okay. And then his fingers were twitching. I don't know if you noticed that. Now, I'm not going to bore you with all of this, but if I was in a physical room with you, all the points you have highlighted, I would have written it on the wall. And the reason why this is important is because many times, just because our minds are closed, we are not open to the possibilities that are staring us in the face. All right. And so you might say he's an experienced leader, but the truth is that day was new. So he needed to see it with fresh eyes. And it's important that we realize this, that statistically speaking, when you don't have an open mind, the truth is that your ability to see further dips. And I'd like you to just reflect on one question as we close. How has curiosity helped you overcome a challenge in your leadership role? This is one of my last questions as we begin to close. And if you'd like to share, I'd like to give you the mic. Remember, this is an interactive one. I'm not here to teach you. My work is to facilitate some learning and hopefully get you to unlearn certain things. And hopefully we all can relearn and we can keep learning. This is my assignment and my purpose here. So I invite you as we begin to close. How has curiosity helped you overcome challenge in your leadership role? Anybody? You can type in the chat box if you want. Thank you, Rufus. You said you love this. I appreciate the kind words and the feedback. All right. Okay. All right. Emilia, thank you. Curiosity helps you ask appropriate questions. Yes. And you don't need to feel right. You just need to be willing to be guided on the right path. You don't have to have, remember what we said when we started, you don't have to have all the answers. Okay? Yes, tapping into the available resources. All right. So, since someone has responded to that, let me ask a follow-up question. What does unlearning these myths mean for you and your approach as a leader? Okay? Because you see, the need to unlearn is also very important. It's as powerful as learning. Okay? He had to unlearn his way of wanting to handle that situation by trying to use his sword. The sword was the wrong tool to deal with that challenge. He needed to self-lead first. He needed to be at peace with himself. And when he was at peace with himself, then he experienced peace within. And that peace within brought the fly to his hands. In other words, what you are looking for, trying to fight outwardly, the answer resides within you. And as we close, you know, the fly story shows that relentless reaction can truly multiply challenges. When you embrace calm and curiosity, you lead self. And then once you lead self, you are able to lead others. So here's my challenge to everyone on this call. Start your next meeting by asking one curious question instead of assuming you have all the answers. Apostle Paul, okay, it's Rufus now. I thought it was Apostle Paul quoting the Bible. It says, I was reading Matthew 13 today. Jesus' apostles, asked him why he spoke in parables. It was then he gave them some insight into the parables. They got a new insight because they were curious. If they had not done that, they would have been like the crowd too. Nothing learned, not better than the others. Ajoka said, oh, more, this is really making me think. Hey, Mama, go ahead, ma, think, Lord. Right, so let's begin to close. Here are my takeaways. Unlearn outdated myths. Rufus, yes, I can speak Yoruba. I'm good at least 5 languages. So here are my key takeaways. Unlearn outdated myths. Embrace open mindset. And lead by first mastering yourself. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to facilitate this. I hope it has brought some insights to you. My name is Joshua Awesome, and awesome is not just my name, it is also my nature. That is why A stands for activating, W for wonderful, E for experiences, S for soul, O for others, M, of course, represents more, and E for experiences. Thank you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to have facilitated this. I hope this was insightful for you. Peace and abundant blessings.
Okay, Madam Rita, you're muted.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Awesome. We got what you said, and this brings us back to what Harvin Toffler said. I think he said something about the illiterate of the 21st century no longer being those who cannot read or write, but those that cannot, I think, is unlearn, relearn, or learn or something. I think I've forgotten that phrase. So as leaders, we need to be open-minded. We need to open up our minds. We need to also have the ability to master ourselves. In mastering self, you have the ability now to be able to see other things. And what this video that you have played on has shown is the power of curiosity. Sometimes we may be in that position of expertise. It doesn't mean that we know everything. We may be in a position where we need to pivot, but we're not doing it. But then at the end of the day, what has helped this particular, I want to call him a leader really, because at the end of the day, he was able to become in the midst of everything. He was able to master himself, and that has given him the privilege to be able to understand and see new opportunities. He was able to see that his old way of thinking, probably the way he thought that he could handle the situation, was not the right way. And then he was able to adapt to the circumstances that he has found himself. So curiosity, we all know now, can foster creativity and innovative ideas and ability to rethink our challenges and then be able to arrive at the solution. Sometimes the solution is not far-fetched, but if only we can be calm and learn to know the triggers of our pressure, the triggers of anything that will make you not even be open-minded to receive anything, seeing beyond what you think you can see. And then the insight you gave there concerning maybe our next meeting, honestly, that is the question to ask. To always ask question, and then at the end of the day, let's ask ourselves as leaders, what are we curious about? In your management meeting on Monday, what is going to change from what you have learned today? So I'll open it to the floor. Do we have any question for him before he leaves? Any question from any of the participants? VC, do you have anything to add to this? Or does anyone want to comment on what he has said or what you have learned from the video? Please, the floor is open for 5 minutes. We have less than 25 minutes to go to the end of the whole program.
I mean, just a comment from me, Dr. Awesome is just awesome. Like this is the best. I mean, like this is like the best way to end this session and just, I mean, like apart from the content, it's even the way he spoke. It was so calming. And like right now, I feel like having a good, quiet night rest because my mind is calm. Everything about me is just calm.
Honestly, he has said of, sometimes when we are facilitating, we have it that you just have to present a slide. You just have to do so many things, put more energy. But what he has just done is to just change our perspective onto way of facilitating.
Just reframed our mind.
Exactly.
He did for us what Nazrin just recommended.
Yes, challenging our assumptions and the habits of this is the way to do things.
Correct.
So sometimes when we see new insight, we just have to program ourselves, look at other ways of doing things. But the natural instinct of leaders is just to plow straight into the situation and think they can change.
Right.
Do you have any other one that wants to add any perspective? I can see some people down here. Dr. K, do you want to add anything? Dr. K. Udo, do you want to add anything?
This is really awesome. As Doc have said, I've never seen it this way. This is just also a persuasion for me to have a different view or way of presenting my case. Or maybe I think even the video, I've just been thinking, please, I would like to have that video. I have a lot to teach with that, even in church. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other person? You have just blown our mind. Our assumptions of presentation or facilitating. This is just another perspective that you have brought in. And I want to appreciate you for the new insight you have given everybody tonight. Okay, so any last question before we move in and bring the book review forward? Any other person? Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. Joshua. Awesome. We'll be willing to bring you back on, and we are quite hopeful that we'll get another video to watch. Thank you so much for this new invention. Okay, so I bring to the floor now Chidima and her team to come and anchor this particular program of book review for today. We'll be looking at Atomic Habits. Chidima, are you there? Chidima, are you here?
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think I am supposed to anchor to take this session.
Okay.
I'm Dr.
Thank you
Duke.
so much. Okay, Dr. Duke, I hand over to you now. Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to appreciate the VC and appreciate everyone for coming online this evening. It's been a wonderful session and we are on learning and relearning indeed. Okay, this evening we're going to be going straight to the book review. We're looking at Atomic Habits this month, and it's a great book. The author of this book is James Clear, who is an expert on habits and decision making. He made his name as the author of one of the fastest growing email newsletter in history, which grew from 0 to 100 subscribers under 2 years. The book Atomic Habits is a supremely practical and useful book. In it, James Clear details the most fundamental information about habit formation, so anyone can accomplish more by focusing on less. So let's dive into the book. First, we have the fundamentals, which introduces the book to us. Very vital and key points that can revolutionize our work Some of the key points that the author highlighted are that it is easy to overestimate the importance of one defining moment and underestimate the value of making small improvements on a daily basis. Sometimes we're looking at groundbreaking actions and we underestimate the importance, the value of consistent daily improvements. And James Clear highlighted the importance of small improvements consistently done every day and making a huge difference. According to him, if you can get 1% better each day for 1 year, you will end up 37 times better by the time you are done. Conversely, if you get 1% worse each day for 1 year, you will decline nearly down to 0. So the focus is to ensure we are getting better every day. We are making small improvements, making little adjustments, and making a whole difference at the end of the day. What are habits? According to habits, are the compound interest of self-improvement. So those daily improvements, just like little drops of water making an ocean, compound into a great difference, whether in our career life, our family life, and otherwise. Unfortunately, the slow pace of transformation also makes it easy to let a bad habit slide. The results of bad habit don't show immediately, and so it is easy to let it slide. Then let's get straight to, there are 4 laws that James Clear helped us, or he analyzed in this book. 4 laws that can help to create new habits, and conversely, with these 4 laws, we could also break a bad habit. The first of these laws is that we make whatever habit we want to create obvious. That is the first law. Make the habit obvious. The process of behavior change always starts with awareness. And the habit should be something that is before you. Something that is an habit, an action, a behavior that is not hidden, that is not stacked behind other habits. It should be something that is so before you. And part of the various principles that could help us make new habits obvious is one, the implementation intention. In this implementation intention, this is where you make a plan. You make before about what you want to do. A plan you make, like you have, perhaps you want to start exercising, or you want to start a new habit. Okay, so that plan it is something that is new. So you bring it to the point where you put it on, you put it such that it is easy for you. It is something that it is not hidden behind other plans or other habits that you previously have had. Okay, something where you want to go, where you want to act. So it is tied between time and place. I want to do this thing at this time at so and so place. Okay, I want to jog at so and so time, so and so place. So it is tied to a place and a time, a space and a time. So it is not just something that is left to chance. You have a time tied to it. You have a space, a place tied to it. So give your habits a time and a space to live in the world according to him. Give your habits a time and a space to live in the world. Very, very important. And then we move on to the second habit, which has to do with make the habit attractive. You've made it obvious through implementation, intention, habit stacking. Now go to making it attractive. The more attractive an opportunity is, the more likely it is to become habit forming. Once a behavior becomes attractive, it is easy to stay with it. So, and in order to get this done, to make it attractive, you can tie it around friends and family, community and culture. If it is something, that pressure of it is what your friends do, that attractiveness can influence you to keep to getting it done, that to be consistent with doing it because your friends do it. Then also, you could also reframe your habits to highlight their benefits so that it is attractive to you. Reframe the habits to make it attractive so that from time to time, you have the desire, you are drawn towards it. So that is the second law to creating new habits, that you make it attractive, you make it obvious. The first law. The second law, make it attractive. And the third law, make it easy. Make it easy. Now, conversely, if you're going to break a bad habit, the first law is, instead of making it obvious, make it invisible. Then the second law to breaking a bad habit, instead of making it attractive, make it unattractive. Now, why the third law to making or creating a good habit, a new behavior, is making it easy. Conversely, if you're going to break a bad habit, make it difficult. So let's go ahead with creating a new habit. Make it easy. To master a habit, focus not on perfection, but focus on repetition. Not just perfection, not just getting it right, but focus on repetition. It could be as small as, okay, waking up, you want to exercise, you want to jog, as tying your shoe. It could be as small as the 2 minutes rule. You just, okay, you open a page, a book, you read. It's not the quantity at the time. It's that once you have mastered the habit, it is easy to continue. So the focus here is not perfection. Because most times when we are creating new habits, we are trying to perfect it, to be perfect, and that hinders us. So focus on progress, repetition, and soon it becomes easy. And lastly, the fourth law is making it satisfying. Make it satisfying. Make the habit satisfying. Let it be rewarding. If an experience is satisfying, we have little reason to repeat the habit. So make it satisfying. Make it such that it is easy for you to continue. It is satisfying to you. These are 4 laws that guide creating a new habit. And of course, this book is a wonderful book. It indeed will help reshape us. And as I wrap it up, very, very importantly, James Clear did highlight the fact that it is not just setting goals or making habits. Whatever goal or habit you are setting, if it is not consistent with who you are, your identity, it will not last. So create a system that supports the habits that you want to make. So let the habit be consistent with your identity, with who you are. If it's just from the outside, from results, it will not last. It should be connected to your identity. That is how habits that last begin. They start from your identity, they start from who you are. These are few points I think will help reposition us going forward. Thank you very much. Okay, over to you, Madam Rita. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share.
So much for that wonderful review of your book, The Atomic Habits. So I don't know what we have, anyone that wants to share one or two insights about the atomic habits. So I'll be calling Ajoke. JK, can you help us with another insight or perspective to what Dr. Duke has shared, even if it's just a commentary to, in addition to what he has said about the atomic habits? Over to you, Ajoke.
Okay. Good evening, ma. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Yeah,
I know
you're
that
welcome.
I had previously mentioned how atomic habits had changed my life. I think I shared with Madam Rita last year. I realized that I was getting too distracted with social media. But after reading that book, I realized that while I might not be able to get off social media completely, given that there are so many other apps that I need to use, but by following what James Clear said, I gave myself a time that once I get to the office between the hours of XYZ to XYZ, I won't even look at WhatsApp. It's either it's in my bag or it's pasted down. And within that time, I missed several calls. I know that there are days when Madam Rita will chat and I won't be able to reply, but the truth was that gradually it has gotten me to a point that I can go for a certain number of hours in the morning, focused on my work without being distracted. I'm not where I want to be yet, but gradually it has been a journey, and I wouldn't have started if I had not read this book. So I want to say that all habits are possible to change, all habits are possible to improve. I think it's just a question of your determination or how badly you want to change it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ajoke, for that insight. So we take another person before we call VC in to wrap up the session for us. Chidima, the head of the book review team, can we have you say one or two things about the book? Chidima, can you say one or two things? Or do we have any volunteers that can just make a comment? Emilia, I can see you there. Do you want to say anything about the atomic habits? Do you have any of the participants here willing to share one or two things about any of the insight from the book? Okay, I think everybody's keeping mute. So today is fire. I'm reading Sheyi Agwola there. Sheyi, do you want to say one or two things about the book or what you have learned from the program today? Who wants to share one or two insight, if not for the book, from any of the sessions that we've had, before we bring in Dr. Godwin in, and then we'll wrap the session. Thank you so much, everyone, for making our time today to come on board with us. We usually do this every month. So who wants to share any insight? In the absence of that, I will be calling VC to come on board. VC, are you ready? Are you ready for us?
Right. Thank you so much, Madam Rita. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. And thank you, everyone, for your active participation. Thanks to all the speakers for tonight. Thanks for the insight you brought to the table. Thank you for helping us reframe and deframe. Now, you'll notice there's a pattern in everything we've talked about this February. And it's all about winning the battle of the mind. It's all about winning the battle of the mind. First, in January, we were all focused on all setting goals and all of that. And of course, we had Kickstart 2025, and we've helped a lot of people set their goals. But at individual levels and corporate levels, we all have to do something in order to be able to achieve those goals. Now, I want you all to picture, let me tour the path of Dr. Joshua Olson and ask you to use your imagination. Picture an iceberg. Now, on top of that iceberg, all right, the tip of that iceberg, I want you to picture your topmost goals for this year. And then beneath the iceberg, under the water, I want you to picture three things. One is your action plans. Two, it's your habit or routine. And three, it's your belief. Okay? Now, let me say something that I think is extremely important, and I want you to leave here with. No matter what you do, no matter what you do, no matter how lofty your goals are, if you are not able to deal with those three elements under the iceberg, let me not even say the three elements. Let's say on top of the iceberg, at the surface of the water, is your goals and your action plan. Those are very clear. We usually have those written, right? We have that set, it's on our walls. In the company, we call it corporate objectives. And what else? What do we call them? So we have goals, vision, mission, corporate objectives, right? That's for companies like this. So people don't even do that. Then at the bottom of the pyramid, below the surface of the water, you know, at the bottom of the iceberg, is then your habits, routines in your organization and your systems. All right. In the balance scorecard, we call them what? Internal processes. We call them culture, the way we do things around here. And then below that is your belief. What we have done tonight is focus on everything below the water, everything under the iceberg. And I want you to remember what James Clear told us. You rise by your goals, all right? But you fall to the level of your systems. No matter how lofty whatever goals you have set is as an individual, you cannot achieve them without changing your routines, without changing your habits, and without changing your belief. Your belief is a soft version of your habit. While your habits are your default action, your belief are your default thought or mental conditioning. So you could say this year, I want to make $100 million in revenue. But if you do not believe it, down under the iceberg, if you do not believe that you can make it, guess what? You will never achieve it. And the same way, and unless you change that belief, you cannot even change your routine, your behavior. One way you will notice that you don't believe it is that you are not even acting in a way that will help you achieve $100 million. You are not acting it. Because when you are now expected to go to places or to clients or to organizations where you are supposed to get $100 million, you actually shy away from it. In fact, you do not have the passion or the desire or the drive because you don't even believe in it. So those are the things that Nasdrin has tried to address for us. Paradigms, mind. All right, because we also tried to address things from a different part of the pyramid. So I think we've had the key pointers, the key code this month in order to have a successful 2025 is that you start with everything below the iceberg so that you can have a successful above the iceberg. Thank you also very much for attending. Thanks for listening to us. And we look forward to having you again in March. Thank you. Over to you, Rita.
Okay, so thank you so much, every one of you. I can see wonderful comments down here. And one of us is saying, I love the idea of getting 1% better every day. The magic of compounding is phenomenal. That's by Adetutu. Apostle Paul is saying it's been an awesome night. So we call it a wrap today. So we expect to see more of every one of you Next month in March, when we'll be talking about the legacy leadership. What do we mean by leadership legacy? You are there today, tomorrow you will not be there. What would the people remember you by? What will be your strength? What will be things that you have been able to put down as structures? Leadership is not just leading people or button people, it's also about results. So on this note, I say thank you to everyone. And as we take our leave, everything wonderful, every of the insight of tonight, I hope we'll be able to apply them. That is what the TLC is all about, the good to great managers circle. So leaders with result. We see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye for now.